Hello, welcome to the New Artist Workshop. I'm Don Bivens, and today we're going to update the video on blending pastels. In my previous video, I focused on one type of surface, and that was the Strathmore 400 series assorted pastel papers, which is what this one is right here. But this time I decided, you know what, I want to show another surface that you can use when working with pastels, and you will see the difference between the two surfaces. One being, like I said, a general all-purpose surface, and the second one being a sanded surface. So stick around, and I hope you enjoy. Well, what I have up here in front of me are two surfaces that we will use to blend pastels. You'll notice that I've already put and applied the pastel on both surfaces except for one location, in the location that I have marked as pastel. Now, the two surfaces that we're going to be working on is this surface is known as the Strathmore 400 series. It's the assorted colors, and it is the 9x12. You can find these on Amazon or at a local art store. The second one is the Sennelier. I believe this one is the 12x15 pad Sennelier card. Also something you can find on Amazon or in a more higher end art store such as Dick Blick, which is a store that we have around here. And the pastels that I'm using is the Faber-Castell, the 72 set soft pastels, which you can also find on Amazon and other locations and art stores in general. They're not hard to find, trust me. I don't have a link or anything on there for any of this stuff. But what we're going to be using to blend these pastels is, you'll see I have marked as a finger, a cotton swab, brush, pipe insulation, which you can get at Lowe's or any hardware store, and it is actually very inexpensive. A makeup applicator, which is something I started using recently, a foam pad, which is also similar to the makeup applicator, and pastel and blending stump. And you'll see in the photo there that I have, you'll see that I've got the cotton swab, the brush, and this is a Sennelier, excuse me, a Sennelier brush, the foam pad, the pipe insulation, the makeup applicator, and the foam pad, which is just a little, looks like a little brush itself, the pastels, which I'm using just a blue and a white, and then the blending stump. We're not going to be applying any alcohol to any of these surfaces. But what I want you to know about working with the Sennelier card, you cannot get it wet. It is made from vegetable ground and type mineral, and it is a sanded surface, and you'll see, I don't know if you can hear it very well, but it's a rougher surface than this surface here on the Strathmore assorted pastel paper. So why don't we go ahead and get started so we can show you the differences between each surface that we're working on. So the first one that I've got marked down is the finger, and basically nothing more than just using your finger to blend. You'll notice that on the pastel paper, this Strathmore paper, you'll notice that it doesn't have complete coverage. Well, on a paper like this, you might use a workable fixative, which is, I have here, Krylon workable fixative, very inexpensive item. And what this allows you to do, it allows you to kind of spray over, you don't want to soak it, but just spray over the surface that you're working on, and then you can go over it and apply more color, apply a second layer. It kind of gives you just a little bit more tooth. And the second one we're going to work on now is using the cotton swab. And I'm not being too liberal or conservative about blending. I'm just pushing the color in there and just letting the cotton swab kind of do the work for me. And you can kind of see, once again, how you kind of see the indentations that's naturally in the paper itself. And the third one is the brush. Now, like I said, this is a Sennelier brush. You can get them in I think they come in a 3-pack is what I had purchased. Also available on Amazon or some art suppliers. If you just search it, type in Sennelier brush, pastel brush, you'll come up with it on online somewhere. But you want to bang these off too. That's always fun to do. You want to bang those off because you get the dust and stuff, and you don't want to cross-contaminate if you're using a different color down the road. The next one that we're going to use is the pipe insulation. Like I said, very inexpensive, and actually I think I got a roll of it here somewhere. Yeah, here we go. So let me just show you this big old roll. Okay, look at that. I mean, we're talking, this cost me maybe $1 or $2, so I'll get plenty of use out of that. Probably hit somebody with that too, you know. That's pretty cool. I like that. So let's see what happens when we use the pipe insulation. And I'm just mixing the color, not trying to get any shape or anything like that. We're not worried about that. We're just showing you the different ways of blending pastels and the effects it has on different types of surfaces. That was why I wanted to update my portion on blending pastels. The next one is the makeup applicator. Here's a pack of them that I just purchased not too long ago. And I'm not sure really what they're made of, to be honest with you, but you can get them, these makeup applicators, you can get them in packs at Walmart and things like that. But they're kind of like a foam. To be honest with you, I'm not really sure what they're made of, but it works really well, especially on the Sennelier card. So let's go ahead and just see what happens when we apply this. Now, if I was working on this pastel paper, I would probably do, you know what, I just messed up. That was supposed to be over here, so you know what, let's just move that. And this, I actually just used the makeup applicator, but you know what, oh well, you know, you live and you learn. So this is the makeup applicator. Let me find my trusty little, aha, my Sharpie. This is what you would call a happy accident, I suppose. Alright, so let's just, I feel like I'm doing football. And we're just changing places. So I apologize about that, but oh well, that's the way it goes. So, but this is what the makeup applicator is doing. And now I'm using the blending stump. Okay? And I'm just pushing the color in there. And you'll see, like I said, working with the pastel paper, I noticed that, once again, that you don't have, like, you can still see portions of the color of the paper underneath the pastel, which is why you might use a workable fixative over it and then kind of create layers. And that's perfectly fine to do. The next one is actually using the pastel itself. I use all these, trust me. I don't just stick to one. And what I'm actually doing is doing like little figure eights when I'm mixing it. I'm applying more pressure down here with the white because this is where the white's at, and then I am applying less pressure as I go on. Then I will come across with the blue and do the same thing, get it really covered in there real well. And then I will apply that pressure more and more, actually more and more at the beginning, and less as I go through. And just very lightly, you know. And then you're kind of going over it, and over it, and over it. And like I said, I just do little figure eights. There's different ways of, you can do circles, you can do little figure eights, you can do straight broad strokes if you want, and that's perfectly fine. This medium pastel, to me, I think is actually very forgiving. Some artists don't like to work with pastels, and that's okay. I mean, everybody has their own style on what they work with. And then the last is the blending stump. Did I just do the blending stump too? I could have sworn I did. Okay, well, you know what? This is the makeup applicator. Okay, well, we're going to let's do this again because I think I've just lost my train of thought. Okay, so let's go back to the foam pad. So I'm just going to reapply this pastel. And let's just go ahead and put this down. Okay. All right. So we're starting off again. I did the makeup applicator in the foam pad location, so I'll just go ahead and, since I marked it off, let's just go ahead and just do it that way, not to confuse anybody as much as we probably already are. Now the makeup applicator, just mix it, just push the color in, and it works very well, I think, on the Sennelier card, and you'll see that here in a minute. We'll actually do it correctly this time. Nothing but a happy accident. If you don't make mistakes, then you don't learn, I suppose. Okay, so that's the makeup applicator. Foam pad has left the building and went over here. That's what this little guy is here, okay? I don't remember where I actually got him from, and I haven't seen him since. But it has the same consistency as the makeup applicator does. So just press the color in there. And I like to use this one. And man, I really wish I could actually find these things again. I'm gonna have to do some research, see what I can find. So if you know where these are at, drop me a link and or drop me a comment or something and let me know, because I'd really like to get my hands on these again. And I like the result of that. And we already did the pastel. And then the last one is the blending stump. You can get these blending stump at art stores. You can order them online. They come in packs. You can get them single. They work very well. Actually, all these techniques work very well. So let's just, and I think I'm being kind of aggressive with it, but that's fine. I just want to get you the idea of seeing what happens when you mix pastels on the different surfaces. Okay, so we see what happens when we applied the finger, the cotton swab, the brush, the pipe insulation, the makeup applicator, ignore that, the foam pad, the pastel when you're actually using the pastels themselves to blend, and the blending stump. This is on the Strathmore 400 series assorted color pastel paper. So now let's work with the Sennelier card. And I'm just going to mix it with my finger. Now you notice right off the bat, and maybe you don't, that you have the coverage, the coating between the pastel and the surface is better. And that's because the surface is actually pulling more of the pastel and pigment off of the pastel itself. The next one we're going to use is the cotton swab. And just push the color in. If this is the type of surface that you have, with you, great. If not, go out and purchase a pack. I think you can get a relatively inexpensive pack of these Sennelier card online. And you can just go to Amazon. I search Amazon for everything first now. And then we're going to use the Sennelier brush. And the brush is allegedly made specifically for Sennelier pastels. I don't know. I really don't know. I use it. Well, these are not Sennelier pastels we're using. We're using the Faber-Castell 72 set. It just basically kind of pushes the color in, and you can kind of move it around. Now the pipe insulation, this little guy right here. This is one I found that seemed to cover the best between all the tools of the trade. You could kind of hear that grinding sound of the pastel being blended. And you can kind of soften the edges too if you're working on a larger project. But you see the difference between the pipe insulation there and the pipe insulation up here. You still have a lot of the surface that's still bleeding through. So on the surface such as the pastel paper, you would probably go ahead and use a workable fixative and then go over it again. Not necessarily on the Sennelier card, because of it being a rougher surface. So now let's correctly apply the makeup applicator. And just like the pipe insulation, It pushes the color in. And I noticed that some pastels work better with it and some don't. That's just, you know, based on the binding agent that is used and how much binder they use to make that pastel. Now let's use that little foam pad, like I said, which is pretty much the same as the makeup applicator. And you see, I love how this works on this pastel card. Excuse me. And you can get good effects with this, to be honest with you, really good effects. Is that background music playing? Is that? Yeah, I guess it is. Must be hearing things. Oh, that's okay though. Let's have fun. Okay. You see, like I said, look at the difference between the foam pad there and the foam pad over here. Once again, the two surfaces, you'll see what pulls a lot more of the pigment off of the pastel than the other one. And then again, we're going to use the pastels themselves. So I'm just making broad strokes on this. But look at the coverage, you know, the difference between the two surfaces and how they cover. You know, and you're just, I'm kind of lightly going over that white. You know, it's very, very effective. It's one way to kind of keep that luminosity and not lose that vibrance that the pastel will give you naturally because of it being a pure pigment. Like all art supplies such as watercolor, acrylic, oil, they all are formed out of that pure pigment. But the additives and the oil and so forth are added to those, so you kind of lose some of that original luminosity that you get with the pastel. And I love working with pastel because the result is very, the results are astounding. There's no question about the difference between the pastels and the oil paints. And then the last one is the blending stump. I push it right on in there. I'm not trying to create, you know, a masterpiece here. I'm just showing you the difference. So there you go. So you can see the differences between the two surfaces. You can see the differences between using certain tools on one paper versus another paper. Now, if you are working on, if you decide, okay, you know, I'd like to try this and I'd like to try this Sennelier card, once again, you can get it on, just check Amazon, go there first. I go there first for everything, like I said. And you see the differences, like I said, you see the differences between the two surfaces. You know, I think the biggest change that I noticed is between the pastel on the paper versus the card, as well as the pipe insulation and the finger. Just using, and I do try to avoid using my finger because the natural oils in your finger can have an effect on those pastels, but it's not something I rule out as well. So let's go ahead and just do a little recap and see what we might have in store for another video. Well, we see the difference that working on two different surfaces can produce. The smoother, more general all-purpose pastel paper and the more specifically oriented towards pastel, the Sennelier card. Now, these techniques that I showed you, I do use in my work. I may not use all of them, but I will use a majority of them. As a matter of fact, I'll show you a picture that I'm working on, or that I actually did work on, because of the upcoming series that I'm going to be doing known as Painting the Prairie. I don't know how long it'll take, but I hope you stick around to watch that. I think you'll get a lot of good instruction out of that. And that's this little picture that I created here. This is what I know, or what I call sort of a color study. It's actually more of a practice sketch of the picture that I will be doing here in the near future. Now, I used all these techniques except for the cotton swab. I used everything that I showed you here on this picture. I did not use a fixative on it, or a workable fixative on it, because I did not want to use it on the Sennelier card. You can use the workable fixative on the card. But the problem is that you, with workable fixative, you're kind of adding tooth back into the paper when you no longer have it. Well, with the Smell Your Card, you have plenty of tooth, so you really don't need to use it. But the effects were very good. It's not a bad little study, and I will change things again, as I always do, and I'm known for it. So I hope this kind of helps you out with working with pastels and the difference between the two types of surfaces. And if you are new to pastels, you may have never even known there was a sanded type of surface for pastels to be used on. And there's a very wide range of surfaces, and I can give you some ideas. So now your card, UArt makes a sanded surface. It's like sandpaper. When you actually flip it over, it has the grit number just like sandpaper does. Colorfix makes a sanded surface. So if it's something that you really want to get into and you want to start working on more suitable surfaces for pastels, just check on Amazon and type in, sanded pastel paper. It'll come up with a variety of brands and products that you can purchase online. So in our next video, I'm going to show you how to draw an apple, something very simple, something good for the beginner. And I'm going to use the pastel card, and you will see how lighting and stuff and blending, we're going to use a variety of these blending techniques to do it. And so I hope you stick around, and if this video helped, give it a thumbs up. Send me a comment if you have any show ideas or anything like that. And hope you subscribe, and we'll see you next time on New Artist Workshop. Thank you for watching.